Let us start with a brutal reality that the weak absolutely refuse to hear. Acquiring massive wealth is not a complicated, mysterious formula locked away in ancient, dusty books. It is not a magical secret hidden inside elite circles. The pathetic masses love to pretend that it requires immense, untouchable genius. They want to believe it requires absolute, flawless perfection. Because if it requires genius, they have a built-in excuse for their own failure. But the truth is incredibly terrifying. Wealth is not mathematically complicated. It is just deeply psychologically uncomfortable. It simply requires terrifying, brutal honesty with yourself and the freezing cold courage to act with absolute, unyielding strategy. Most people do not fail to become wealthy because it is impossible for them. They fail because they violently refuse to pay the heavy psychological price that comes attached to it. They desperately want their success wrapped tightly in a warm, fuzzy blanket of comfort. They want the massive rewards of the conqueror without taking a single ounce of the conqueror's risk. But this physical reality absolutely does not respond to your pathetic little dreams. It does not care about your vision board. It responds exclusively to cold, hard principles. Money does not magically flow to those who sit around wishing for it. It flows exclusively to the entities who deeply understand how to manipulate the mechanics of the game. You have been spoon-fed motivational poison your entire life. You were told to just work hard, put your head down, follow the rules, and good things will magically happen to you. Look around you right now. Take a cold look at the real world. Millions of people bleed themselves dry, working incredibly hard every single day, and they are utterly exhausted. They are wildly underpaid, and they are permanently stuck in the suffocating mud of the middle class. The system actively teaches you to dream big, but dreaming without possessing the actual physical power to execute is just cheap entertainment for the weak. It is a pacifier for the adult infant. These pretty little slogans are deliberately designed to keep you entirely predictable, because predictable people are incredibly easy to control. You wake up to an alarm. You follow the exact same morning routine. You scroll mindlessly through your little glowing screen. You commute to a job you despise. You go to sleep exhausted. And you repeat the exact same pathetic cycle tomorrow. Predictability is rewarded with baseline survival. But survival is absolutely not the same thing as wealth. Do you genuinely believe the wealthy architects of this system actually want everyone to become rich? Of course they do not. The system desperately requires an endless supply of people who are manageable, people who follow instructions without questioning the authority, people who wait endlessly for permission to speak, to move, to breathe, because the exact second a human being begins to build something on their own without permission, they become highly dangerous to the status quo. Reality does not ever reward goodness. It exclusively rewards boldness. It rewards the monsters who completely refuse to wait for the rules to benefit them, and instead learn exactly how to violently bend those rules in their absolute favor. Most people remain broke because they are strictly following a set of rules that were engineered by the wealthy to keep them broke. The wealthy absolutely do not rely on hope. They rely on ruthless, clinical strategy. They do not spend their finite, bleeding lives working for paper money. They meticulously build exponential systems where the money begins aggressively working for them. The wealthy operate on three very simple, terrifying principles: own, control, and multiply. Everything else is a distraction designed for the peasants. Society trained you like an obedient dog to trade your finite time for a bi-weekly paycheck. But time is the absolute worst currency you can possibly trade, because it is constantly, rapidly running out. and you can never, ever buy a single second of it back. Ownership, however, does not run out. When you actually own the system, when you own the business, when you own the digital platform or the piece of intellectual property, you completely shift the mathematical equation of your life. But the sheep never take that first crucial step. Why? Paralyzing fear. The suffocating fear of looking foolish to people who are completely broke. The fear of stepping off the crowded, safe path. They build a miserable little cage for themselves, and they happily paint the word stability on the door. But that stability is a complete manufactured illusion. Inflation quietly and violently consumes their pathetic savings. Entire industries evaporate overnight. Corporate loyalty is a fairy tale. That is not safety. That is simply delayed, inevitable destruction. The true mastermind is not chasing safety. The mastermind is actively hunting for absolute control. Control over their time, control over their income, and absolute control over the entire trajectory of their physical existence. Getting rich is absolutely not about frantic, sweaty movement. You can run on a corporate hamster wheel until your heart violently explodes in your chest, but you will stay in the exact same physical place. Wealth is entirely about direction and leverage. You must clinically observe exactly how money flows in this global ecosystem. And then you must position your physical body and your assets exactly where that massive flow passes. You build heavy leverage. You capture exponentially more value than you ever consume. Think of money exactly like a massive raging river. The pathetic masses stand shivering on the muddy banks. They hold out their little cups, desperately hoping the current splashes a few random drops onto their faces. The mastermind does something completely different. The mastermind builds heavy concrete canals. He violently redirects the river so it flows directly into his own personal reservoir. One group waits and hopes and begs. The other group takes aggressive, unapologetic action and builds. To build the canal, you must master the two primal forces that quietly dictate absolutely all human behavior: fear and desire. The masses rarely make decisions based on cold, mathematical logic. They are entirely driven by the terrifying fear of missing out, the desperate clawing hunger for social status, and the pathetic biological need to belong to a herd. The strategic operator heavily weaponizes these exact emotions. They do not just sell a boring physical product. They sell profound transformation. They sell a shiny new identity. When you finally learn how to surgically connect immense value with deep, unfulfilled human desire, the money will start flowing toward you like a tidal wave. Attention is the ultimate gateway to this leverage. If you can successfully command human attention in the modern world, you gain the terrifying ability to move markets and manufacture massive demand entirely out of thin air. You become the architect of their desires. But you must listen to me very carefully right now. Extreme success acts as a massive polarizing magnet for resistance. The exact moment you begin to physically elevate above the herd, they will fiercely criticize you. They will loudly call you arrogant. They will whisper in the shadows that you just got lucky. They will try to pull you right back down into the bucket with them. They will completely ignore the sleepless nights. They will ignore the massive calculated risks you took. And they will entirely dismiss the crushing psychological pressure you endured while they were busy playing it completely safe. When you rise, you act as a terrifying high-definition mirror that violently reminds them of the risks they were entirely too cowardly to take. Your success is a physical insult to their lazy existence. You cannot pursue absolute power and expect universal applause. You must be entirely willing to stand completely alone in the freezing dark. You must be comfortable being the villain in their pathetic little story. You must completely, ruthlessly unlearn the script they forced into your brain since childhood. The school system did not teach you how to sell. It did not teach you how to ruthlessly negotiate. or how to build exponential cash-flowing assets. Because the system absolutely does not want independent, powerful thinkers. It wants compliant, terrified workers. You have to immediately stop trading your hours for dollars. 1 hour of labor, equaling 1 unit of pay, is a linear, suffocating trap built for the weak. You must build exponential systems, a digital asset, a global platform, a piece of leverage that generates massive value while you are completely unconscious and sleeping. You start with one single highly lethal skill: advanced persuasion, elite marketing, high-ticket sales, or ruthless negotiation. You sharpen that specific weapon every single day, while the rest of the world is scrolling mindlessly on their little glowing screens. Absolute mastery builds terrifying, undeniable confidence. And that kind of confidence violently attracts massive opportunity. Money behaves exactly like fire. If you use it strategically and respect its nature, it provides immense power, warmth, and absolute security. If you use it carelessly, if you use it to buy flashy, depreciating garbage just to impress people you secretly despise, it will violently burn your entire empire to ashes. The mastermind spends capital incredibly strategically. Every single dollar becomes a highly trained, loyal soldier. You send those soldiers out into the brutal world with one strict, unyielding order: capture the enemy and bring back more soldiers. Real wealth is not a leased sports car or a rented private jet. Those are just noisy, pathetic distractions for clowns pretending to be kings. Real wealth is total, unyielding control. If someone else dictates your morning schedule, you are just a highly paid slave wearing a nicer collar. The masses will hear this transmission. They will nod their heads in mindless agreement. They will feel a tiny, synthetic spike of fake inspiration in their chests. And then tomorrow morning, they will immediately crawl right back into their comfortable, highly predictable cages. They will complain about the system while violently defending the chains that bind them. But a very small, very dangerous fraction of you will choose something entirely different today. You will finally tear up their pathetic gray script. You will begin to study the complex mechanics of wealth with the cold, unforgiving precision of a military strategist. You will finally accept that no one is ever coming to rescue you. There is absolutely no magical golden opportunity waiting to fall from the sky into your lap. Stop playing their small, heavily rigged game. Stop asking for permission to exist. Violently flip the board over. Build the massive canal, and let the river completely drown them.